Excellent. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for making the time to join us this afternoon. It's a real joy to be able to share what we've learned over the last couple of weeks since the draft roadmap was circulated. As I said, we've had some great responses to our survey, some really insightful contributions and additions. So look forward to walking you through those today. And for those, hopefully everybody has come across me by now, but I'm Jo Kemp, the Program Manager for the Investing in Rural Community Futures program in Victoria. Emily is driving the ship at the moment. So Emily is the Program Officer for the IRCF program across all of our communities, including New South Wales. And shortly, we'll be so excited to introduce in a moment our community facilitator for Maryborough. So this is like breaking news. But we first would love to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm coming from, which is the Wurundjeri people, and also the Dja Dja Wurrung, as the traditional owners of Maryborough and Central Goldfields region, where the IRCF program is happening, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and are continually grateful for their ongoing care of country for many thousands of years and in the past and well into the future as well. So today, just to give you a little bit of a view on what our hour together is going to be about. As I said, breaking news, introduction of our community facilitator. We'll introduce him next. Then we'll walk through the roadmap in the various elements that it's been presented. So review the principles and vision statements that were responded to through the survey. We'll have a look at the community asset mapping piece. We'll talk a bit more about the 4 pillars and how to think about them in a really connected way. Whilst we've been looking at them as individual pillars to help frame the roadmap, we'll have a look at the pillars through another lens as well. Review of the goals and suggested changes to the roadmap, and then we'll have time for discussion and questions. And talk about next steps. So in the first instance, I'll work through what we've heard through the surveys and the suggested sort of additions or amendments to the roadmap as we've seen them. And as we've interpreted them, I suppose, from all that great survey data, and then we'll have time to have a chat about it and sense check. And today's really about that sense checking piece of making sure that what we're hearing is represented in the way that feels right for your community. So next slide, please, Emily. And lovely, so excited to introduce Alastair Shaw. He has joined the team as the facilitator for Maryborough. So Alastair has a really wonderful background in the not-for-profit sector over many years across a whole range of elements from governance and granting and project development, training and such for not-for-profits. I'll let him talk a little bit about that, but he's also been recently working and still is with the Bendigo Volunteer Resource Centre and is a training facilitator with Women's Health Grampians. So brings a real wealth of experience, and I think he's going to be a fantastic asset to the program and supportive of your community as we launch into this journey together. So, Alastair, love to invite you to say hello and say a few words.
Thanks, Jo. I've met quite a lot of the people who are on the call already, and it's lovely to meet you again and to see you. I'm so excited about this project. As I say, I do a lot of teaching people about grant writing, and to actually have the grants to be able to bring fruition to the projects. It's just amazing. When I talk with Jo in the sort of appointment process, I had to test and to pinch myself that this is actually real. and such a fantastic project for this community and to make a difference. As Joe said, I've got a background. I'm 2 days a week in Bendigo with the Volunteers Centre. I've run projects in governance and grant writing, and I'm an arts worker, and I hope to bring all of that to the project here. I say I live next door to Carisbrook, is the next town along in Newstead, and actually since I first came to Australia in 2018 from New Zealand, I've always been drawn to projects in Maryborough, and it's great to be able to support this one. I'm planning to be on the ground at a site that people tell me where's the best place for me to set myself up for as much as possible of at the beginning and of the 2 days a week that this job is. And I'm very flexible around that and wanting to meet face to face with people that I haven't, and start working up your projects so that we can work out how they get supported.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alistair. That's a great, summary of what's to come, and just really thrilled to have you on board. I'm going to lead and drive the presentation today. Alistair we just had our first sort of induction session on Thursday, so very fresh and new into the scene, but I'm sure he'll be getting his head around things very quickly, and it's been fantastic to have him. He's been in the room at the community workshop recently and others, so very connected to the process and community. So welcome, Alistair. Wonderful. Yeah, great. All right, let's crack on. The intention of the survey process, obviously we've circulated the roadmap, and hopefully everyone here on the line has had a chance to have a look at it. And a half day or 2/3 of a day workshop. Obviously, we've got a lot of information to consolidate, which we did our very best to do, but noted that not all voices were in the room, and that was something that we talked about on the day. So this was one method to try and bring in other voices to the roadmap and make sure that we capture all the elements that are important for your community. So we had 17 responses to the survey, and I know that some of those were sort of collective responses on behalf of groups, where an individual may have reported on behalf of the MVRG or Committee for Maryborough or such. I'm expecting, and overall, we've had a really wonderful, positive response to the draft roadmap and the way that we've presented it to date. So a lot of the questions in the survey were asking you to rank out of maximum of 5, being 5 the most aligned to what happened on the day and to what you feel is right for your community. And so 98.3% of responses ranked all of those elements between either a 4 or a 5. So that was really a great start. We had lots of lovely comments included in the roadmap, as well as constructive comments. We can just move to the next slide. So just to set the tone of the sorts of feedback that we got, I love the enthusiasm and goodwill. A big tick for that, an acknowledgement of, we have so many passionate, caring people in our community. It's been a great experience to be part of this process so far. Really just, sharing the energy of the opportunity. I love the comment at the top, which I felt was a really fantastic sort of summary of the process and how to work towards how to work together going forwards. So I find myself biting at the bit to get things going. I know I must stay patient and learn first, and that it's very important to do that. FRRR has given the Maryborough community an opportunity to better themselves that cannot be overlooked. We need collectively to concentrate and not jump the gun, think as one, be as one, stay as one. So I just love the collaborative sort of intent of that comment there. So that's sort of the sense, but as I said, lots of constructive comments, which we'll kind of move into as we talk through each element of the roadmap. So we started our day at the workshop talking about principles of how we would work together, and these seem to resonate really well the way that we presented them back to you. So 100% of responses either agreed or strongly agreed with those principles around sort of collaboration, sustainability, youth engagement and such. So you can see on the right hand of the slide is the principles as we presented them in the roadmap. And on the left, we've just consolidated the suggested changes that came through the survey. So one being adding a new principle around inclusivity. So we encourage, so the suggested change to you is that we encourage all people to be represented and heard, from the very young and to the very old. So we picked up this theme through the commentary around really making sure that we're capturing our whole community and being specific about that. And so not just kind of talking about everybody, but being more specific about from the very young to the very old, for example, and being inclusive in that way. And the second sort of suggestion that came out of the survey was around incorporating the wisdom and calling out that very specifically here, the wisdom of our community elders across both traditional custodians and ownership, and also elders in our community. So proposing that we amend the respect principle to incorporate the recognition of that element in there. So that was for the principles. For the vision, and we can, as I said, we'll certainly have time to talk about these, but I thought might be helpful to run through in the first instance. So for the vision, again, a really positive response with 100% of people agreeing or strongly agreeing with the vision statements as presented, which are there on the right-hand side. But a couple of suggestions. So a new vision statement incorporating an environmental lens. So that being, and this is a suggestion from us in terms of how it might be framed, that it's environmentally focused. So our not-for-profit sector places environmental sustainability at the core of our actions. So there's a suggestion there. And that we amend in a couple of areas, again, around the vision statement, including changing from everyone. So that notion that I talked about before, being a bit more specific about changing that to where people of all ages, all age groups and backgrounds feel included, as opposed to just a bit more generally using the term everyone. And there was a theme around strong theme throughout the roadmap around engaging youth and having a youth focus. And there was a comment around, just being really clear that young people involved in our not-for-profit organisations are about the sustainability of the future of the organisation. So let's really call that out. So suggesting that we add something around whose leadership plays a key role in our success and sustainability under the youth-focused vision. And highlighting the important role that they'll play there. With the community asset mapping exercise that we did as part of the workshop, the intention of that exercise was not to create a really exhaustive list of every organisation in your community. There's probably other resources and things that have that, community directory and other things like that play a role to do that. The exercise was really about let's think about the things and all the wonderful assets and that are existing in our community together already that we can leverage going forwards as part of as we start to address the goals in the roadmap and develop projects and ideas that are funding ready. So we had a few additional suggestions, and just, again, it's not an exhaustive list, but it just helps to think about which organisations sort of sit within those themes of the 4 pillars, and how they might, we might draw on them down the track to support our activities. But the suggested additions that came through were the Maryborough Community Garden, the Community Bank, Maryborough Community Bank, which, fantastic call out for that one. The Climate Action Stewarding Group, the Central Goldfields Food Network, and the Food Systems Roadmap, which I'm aware some of those things are connected to council initiatives, but, are fantastic assets for us to be mindful of, as we go forwards about how they might connect to or be relevant for some of our projects into the future. But essentially, again, 100% of survey respondents either agreed or strongly agreed to how that sort of landed as a resource in the roadmap and a way of thinking about our community assets. Yeah. So just building on that, I suppose, the way that we've talked about the 4 pillars to date and the way that we've presented them have been, in vertical pillars lined up next to each other that are, different from each other. But I guess it's also really important to think about them as being connected. And that's just what I wanted to, I guess, reinforce with this particular slide here, that, we've got our 4 pillars around not-for-profit capacity building being people, strategy, systems and efficiencies that we've talked about and used them to frame our goals for the purposes of this roadmap. But in reality, as we go forth into developing project ideas and so on, we'll see and experience that they are all connected, and which is the nature of our organisations that represent all of these things, and they're interconnected with each other. So we thought we'd just talk about an example of that, which might just help some people, just think a little bit differently about the pillars. So there was a lot of energy at the roadmap workshop, and which certainly came through and is a goal in the plan around establishing a community hub. And we've placed that under the efficiencies goal. That's a way that we can, work more collaboratively together for the benefit of our not-for-profit sector across a whole range of areas. And a hub, hypothetically, if there was a community hub, as was talked about at the workshop, that had that lens of supporting not-for-profit activity, so the goal being a community hub supports shared local activities and services, then the outcomes of that would influence all those other pillars around people, for example. So there's a goal in there around new residents of all backgrounds are welcomed and engaged in local organisations. So a community hub would influence that outcome. It would influence systems around access to not-for-profit subject matters and information. So that was another goal that was in the roadmap, and it would influence, potentially the outcome of that. If you looked from a strategy lens, a community hub might potentially support organisational strategic planning, and organisations to do that really well. So just wanted to, I guess, paint a little picture and use an example of how they are interconnected. They will influence each other, the different pillars, but for the purposes of the roadmap and project planning, we've framed the roadmap under each of those pillars. So I hope that that's a helpful kind of lens on the pillars, as well as we move into looking at each of them, and the goals and perhaps suggested changes or additions that might happen there. So the people pillar one was pretty straightforward. in that we didn't feel that there was any suggested changes from the feedback, with 100% sort of agreeing or strongly agreeing with the goals that we'd flagged there already. And just noting all the survey information that we received, and there might have been a comment under a people pillar goal that alluded to a new goal, and we might have reflected that in one of the other goal areas, in one of the other pillar areas. So if you feel like you may have provided feedback about something under the people pillar, but it's not here, it might turn up in one of the other pillar areas where we felt that it fit really well. So essentially, we haven't necessarily recommended any suggestions or changes based on what we've heard from the survey. Into the strategy one, so you can see there's a bit more activity under this pillar. So 78% of our respondents either agreed or strongly agreed. So you'll note that that's a bit lower, and I think that's a real reflection of actually there's a bit more work to do to get this pillar right in the final version of the roadmap. So the sorts of things that we heard and are wanting to sense check with you about how they feel as part of the roadmap is a theme around ensuring that organisations are prepared to respond quickly to things that might happen in and around your community, and it might be, an example being a disaster event. So the suggested goal could be organisations are skilled and prepared to respond quickly and effectively to future shocks, which I think builds in kind of the intent of that commentary. Another one was picking up on the theme of environmental sustainable practices, ensuring that that's built into the roadmap more with a bit more dedication, I suppose. So a suggestion would be organisations embed environmentally sustainable practices in all areas of operations in terms of the strategy pillar. The next one also picked up on sustainability, but I think there was two themes around sustainability. One was around within environmental lens, and another was around the overall sustainability of our organisations in terms of resourcing and assets and people moving forward in a really, with a really solid grounding for individual organisations. So being a bit more specific about organisations are sustainable with effective fundraising and revenue strategies in place. So that really, having that goal in there really invites opportunity to develop projects along those lines with a real focus on fundraising and revenue. And finally, this is a comment actually that came through from Tony and the MVRG over the weekend, and I think it's a great one as well, around acknowledging the changing trends in volunteering across, from an FRRR perspective, we see this across communities all over Australia, that people are looking to volunteer in different ways that maybe not the traditional ways of the past, as in, being a secretary or a treasurer on a committee, for example, but being really mindful and exploring opportunities to think about alternative ways of volunteering that might engage a broader set of people, really cohort of people, into organisations and activities. So suggestion there might be to include, explore and activate alternative volunteering opportunities as a way to think about ensuring that we're responding to those trends that are being picked up more broadly. In terms of the systems pillar, again, we had a really positive kind of response on that, with 93% agreeing, more strongly agreeing to what's the content in there already. So no suggested changes in this instance on that pillar around systems and structures. And finally, the fourth one, the efficiencies pillar, which is really around, how can we best collaborate to the benefit of our organisations into the future through a range of different ways. And that's where that community hub example sits. But suggestion around being more specific around shared resources, spaces and assets. And that we picked up that from a comment around particularly shared physical spaces that are activated and used across the community. So perhaps broadly to pick up on that idea is to just generally note that shared resources, spaces and assets are shared, and what it takes to do that well, and how that translates into a project under that goal can be quite open, but responding, along that theme. And the last one is that organisations leverage existing community strategies and plans and partner to achieve shared aspirations. So this is, again, looping back on that idea that there's a lot of existing assets in our community. Some of those, so for example, council plans and some of those other initiatives that sit within the umbrella of council or otherwise and outside of that. But making sure that, we're not reinventing the wheel, we're not duplicating things, we're not working in silos, but we're actually really leveraging existing things to their best benefit with a coordinated approach. And I guess the feedback on kind of the pillars that were already existing in there was that there was strong agreement to those as well. So I know that's a lot of information and we've got happily half an hour before 1 o'clock and our time together to drill in, discuss, talk about other things that may have come up. So we'll stop sharing in a moment. But one of the other things, actually, there's a couple of things that I wanted to sense check from my perspective as well. One was around the title of the roadmap and perhaps being more inclusive there. So at the moment, we've just called it the Maryborough Community Roadmap, and all the way along as we've connected with your community, we've talked about how the community identifies, inviting your community to identify what community means to you and what that looks like. And very clearly, there's importance in ensuring that it's not only Maryborough, but the surrounding towns connected to Maryborough through services and other means and so on. So that even came up as one of the goals, to making sure that, some of those towns like Carisbrook and Talbot and so on are feeling very much included and part of this roadmap. So a question is, perhaps we should be calling the roadmap Maryborough and Surrounds to kind of really consolidate that, and in the roadmap update some of the details in the profile that reflect that, to be more specific and inclusive along those lines. And secondly, Alistair and I were having a conversation about the goal of the community hub and what exactly that looks like. With my understanding is that is sort of working towards a new asset, a new hub, a new space, whatever it might evolve into, that's in its own right a community hub, and separate from, I think, the community hub space that's a council-owned meeting area, that's quite a separate piece to the idea of that goal. So, Alistair, I think that's kind of represents what we were talking about, and just wanting to be clear about that. So I'm going to open the floor, stop talking so much, welcome comments on those couple of things, as well as anything else that we've shared in the roadmap. And if helpful, as I said, we'll go back to a slide to bring that back up to have a think about how some of those new suggestions have landed. And I suppose we will keep our channels of communication open, and now we've got an extra channel being Alistair to connect with, to provide feedback and sense checking on this, in this very final phase of wanting to bed down the first version of the roadmap so that we can start looking at focusing on funding opportunities to activate some projects under each of those goals. So if I can, I'll take a breath. Feel free to just unmute and jump in, or raise your hand if that's helpful, and see how we go. Tony, I can see you with your hand up.
Yes, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
I just wanted to say firstly, congratulations to Alistair. I'm very excited that he's going to be our coordinator. Well done, Alistair. The work we've done with Alistair over the past probably year or two, whatever it's been, we know your commitment and your amazing depth of knowledge and experience. So that goes on to our asset list. That's a huge asset, and we really look forward to working with you. The other thing I just wanted to say, well, is thanks for responding by email today so quickly. But I think in the innovation, in our principles innovation, I think what excites me, there's some real scope for us to do some innovative work in that, yes, we still have to support our traditional volunteer areas, and we know a lot of our groups really need that support. I see it more and more every day. There's a desperate need to get in and help a lot of groups together, supporting those groups and try and make things a bit easier for them. And I recommend everybody to read the Volunteer Victoria State of Volunteering report that's just come out. You just put that in your search, Volunteer Victoria State of Volunteering report, which is really clear. It's very graphic in the way it's presented. But the huge thing that struck me is that we're experiencing a transition in volunteering, in the way it works, and there's a huge movement towards more informal, non-traditional. So we still got to support this. We really have to get behind our traditional, but there's real scope in innovation to let our heads go a little bit and think about how do we harness and how do we include the whole range of alternative types of volunteering that are on the increase while traditional's going down.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. And how did that suggestion to add that as a goal under the efficiencies pillar feel to you as sort of an opportunity to do that?
So I think it's a huge opportunity, actually. We had a little meeting about just our group on Friday because that report came out after our first roadmap thing. So, so it came out of that report. And we've been working on that when we had our last forum, a year and a half ago, was the changing face of volunteering. So we've been and our whole not-for-profit community, we're all included in that. So it's been identified, and this report just clarifies and suggests we're heading in the right direction. So that's sort of how it came about, really.
So, Emily, do you want to just share that slide where we added that as a suggested pillar to include in terms of exploring and activating alternative ways of volunteering, and just wanting to kind of sense check that feels like it's a good inclusion in the roadmap to sort of incorporate that theme, Tony, and MVRG and anybody else. So there it is there, that last suggested pillar, explore and activate alternative volunteering opportunities. We might want to build out on that, or does that sort of capture that as a potential to pick up on that theme in the roadmap, Tony, and anybody else?
Yes, Joe, I think that picks it up pretty well. I mean, the report says if we go ahead and don't acknowledge that and don't work with that, we're missing some huge opportunities, and we really need to be a bit contemporary about what we're doing, I guess. So I don't know what anybody else thinks. I mean, I think that covers it pretty well.
I think one of the things we talked about in our little group was bringing the young people in through volunteering as well, which was really, and that, not having to have that huge commitment, but commit as much as you can was a really, I found it really great. I thought it was really fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. That's I think that sort of real youth focus definitely comes through in a number of areas in the roadmap. And my response to Tony this morning was just around, totally agreeing with those themes. It's certainly what we hear. FRRR did a survey. I think we had over 600 survey responses back in 2021. So just post COVID, around called the Heartbeat of Australia report, which really just was a pulse check on how organisations were going, and it had a very strong theme around volunteering, and it certainly picked up on those sorts of vibes as well. So I think I love actually that it's included here. I think it's really relevant, and kind of provides opportunity for that to be a focus if useful.
Kim, can I just add to that? You picked up young people. So the State of Volunteering report says that 7 out of 10 people between 15 and 24 volunteer, but they do it differently. And a lot of people in our community are amazed at that 7 out of 10, because there's an attitude that young people don't do it. They're too busy on their devices, and it's actually not true. 7 out of 10, that's more than older people our age. So that's the sort of thing that we need to harness and embrace.
Yeah, and how are different ways that we can really leverage their skill sets to add value to our organisations. And I think we also see that in the goal around supporting intergenerational kind of learning and sharing is a nice opportunity to do that. Okay, so it sounds like that feels like a good thing to include. Anna, I can see you with your hand up. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. So nice to see you, and congratulations, Alistair. I'm really pleased that you're on board. I know you're still talking about pillars, but I'm aware of time running out on us. I was just wondering, in terms of Alistair's role, could you maybe just tell us how to approach him, where to get hold of him? I know you've had his phone number on here, and when does he actually start?
Great questions. Alistair, would you like to respond to that, or would you like me to have a crack?
Well, I've started. What's that phone number?
That's your FRRR one. So that's kind of will come through your Teams, or people can leave voicemails that go straight to your FRRR inbox.
I'll put in the chat my cell phone number as well, which I'm very happy for people to have.
Great. Emily, can you also pop that on the slide as he pops it in there? Yeah.
So the email address you've got on this slide, that is Alistair's global one.
Yes.
That comes to me.
Yes. Okay. So we'll use that one.
And tomorrow. So I've started.
So tomorrow you'll be at the Bull and Mouth.
Tomorrow I'll be in Maryborough.
I know, but the Bull and Mouth
10 o'clock.
is my office.
I'll be at the Bull and Mouth from midday with Anna, and for anyone else who wants to drop in. And I'm going to be messaging people after this. I think there's, between 3 and half a dozen people I'd like to meet on the first day. And I'm also, I know everyone's here during the day, but I'm conscious that there are people who work who during the day might not work. So I'm also timetabling in Saturday, at least a couple of Saturdays in the next month, to be available in person as well. I know that once we've met, we'll communicate like this, but I think that until we have met, I'm very happy to make myself available to in person, face to face, get to know each other. And if you think I'm a key person, I should meet Alistair, then that's probably enough of an identification. Let's do that.
Thank you.
That's great, Alistair. And it may feel like we are making this up as we go along a bit, because we are. This is, breaking new ground for Maryborough. Alistair has contact details for all of those that have been engaged in the program to date. So he can certainly use that information to provide updates about, in the early days, about where and when he'll be available to connect with. But yeah, certainly you've got his contact details. That's his ircf.maryborough@frrr.org.au opportunity to connect with him. So we will, between the two of us, be in touch about how that evolves. Heather, can see your hand up there. But you're on mute at them. Oh, there you go.
I've had some surgery, so I'm not looking fantastic. But apart from that, I just wanted to highlight the great work that FRRR have done in terms of collaborating with everybody and communicating. The roadmap that came out was quite a good summary of the workshop we had that day, Joe. I had a suggestion for the title of the roadmap, which I feel would sync in with our local shire if we called it the Central Goldfields Community Roadmap, because everybody knows Central Goldfields Shire is where we are, where we live. So the Central Goldfields Community Roadmap, I feel, while not including the word shire in there, would sync in and link in with our local shire, but it also includes all of those towns that makes up the Central Goldfields. So that's my suggestion for the title. And wanted to add to Tony's comments about the volunteering, the different ways of volunteering. A lot of our non-for-profit incorporated clubs are governed by articles of association. So every committee meeting that you have, you're governed by your quorum, by your articles of association. You've got to have your president, secretary, vice president, etc. So hopefully, by discovering new ways of introducing volunteering to your organisation, you could hopefully identify your future committees, because people on committees generally stay there for a long time, they get tired, they're older, but hopefully that would include an opportunity to, if you like, discover and identify people for your future committees that would take on those positions that you need to operate your committee meetings and drive your committee. So that was my comment around that as well. But well done on the roadmap, Joe.
Wonderful. Thanks, Heather. I guess a couple of things in terms of the name of the roadmap and I guess the intent of the program in general. I note that you didn't suggest that it was kind of a shire thing necessarily, but we didn't intentionally pitch the program by LGA, and part of that is around the scope and the potential for impact. By making the program too broad, potentially minimises the meaningfulness and impact that the program will have over the 5-year period. Whether we are interested to see how others feel about, changing it to more of a Central Goldfields theme, and also noting you didn't say shire and it says or include LGA, but that's where we were thinking around. We know what we know from our New South Wales experiences in terms of size of communities, and that was certainly a supporting factor in Maryborough being identified as, or Maryborough and area being identified as a really great potential community for the program to be impactful. So, yeah, I guess preference would be not to line it up or give the sense that it's aligned to an LGA. But I certainly hear your commentary around, we want it to be inclusive and it would make towns feel like they're included. So, yeah, open that up to others. And yeah, I agree with all your comments. They were great comments around governance and potential for encouraging new membership, and it might influence that, but it might also, that goal around alternative volunteering opportunities might also dig up a whole range of being able to volunteer that's not inclusive of being on a committee. So, yeah, I think it's quite general there. Janice, I see you with your hand up.
Yes, Janice Simpson from Castlemaine Maryborough Rail Trail. A couple of things. One is Newstead 2050 seems to have governance under control for its community, and that model might be worth evaluating and replicating, and I'm sure, Alistair, you know about that. And Alistair, where exactly are you going to be tomorrow at 10 a.m?
In a bunker, I think.
Yeah, well, so at 12 I'm in the Bull and Mouth. I'm sort of seeking guidance. Where's the easiest, best place for me to be?
Yeah, sure.
Later in the afternoon, I'll be at the hub. But yeah, if you say, I could be at one of the community houses.
Sure. So if I give you a call in the morning, I could establish where's the best place for us to to meet up and have a chat.
That's right. We could be at the station.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alistair.
Hi, Mary.
Hi. Look, I'm new to this process. I didn't attend the workshop. Tony Macer and a couple of other people asked me to join in with some questions because I volunteer. I have a question more about the physical. I mean, I love everything that's on there and where it's going, but one thing that came out to me and in talking to people that have been involved is the creation of the hub seems to be central to getting a lot of this information and sharing happening. What's the process to creating? Is there already a sort of a work group looking to create the hub, or nothing's kind of gone that far ahead yet as far as identifying and creating the hub for all the groups to use?
So I'm going to talk about my understanding here, and then I'm very happy for others to add more detail and colour and correct me where I'm wrong. The idea of establishing a community hub to support not-for-profit activity was a really strong theme and lots of energy around that, which is why it's on the roadmap. I think my understanding is this is a new initiative that the community would love to see. There is not yet anything formalized in terms of how that might be activated and realized as that vision of a hub. So it's landed on the roadmap of a goal of this is something that we would love to see in our community, and maybe through the IRCF program there could be support for making that happen. But over to the floor, and my also understanding is, as I referenced before, is that that's completely separate to the community hub. That's that physical space that's available as a asset. But I'd love to get clarity on those things, and I'm sure Alistair would as well.
Silence.
Joe, I've got a different question. Yeah, I'm not muted. I've got a different question. Have we still got the council officers online? Are they still here?
Yeah. I think Terence is there.
Terence, do you know anywhere that we could suggest for Alistair to use tomorrow morning from 10 o'clock till 3 or till 12 at either the hub or maybe at the station that is council-owned properties?
Alistair, if you would like to email me, or I'll email you so you've got my email contact, and we can do a bit of back and forth and see if we can find a space.
That will be great because I've just sold my office, so that's not available anymore.
Thanks, Anna. That's looks like we're coming to a solution there, which is a good outcome for today. Just looping back to sort of the community hub and Mary's question and the way that I kind of translated my understanding is that I'm guessing because there's no kind of comments around that yet the way I've interpreted that is
because my question is the hub that exists, like, is it a permanently available space or is it a transient space while, like, it's been made available but it may not be ongoing? So therefore there might be, from all this fantastic work, to me as someone who's been hearing a lot about it, I'd like to think there'd become a permanent hub that is established somehow through all the groups, so that no matter who needs what, there's a central place, so no one's sort of chasing things around and stuff like that. I think that would be, I don't know what Alistair's view is, but I think that would be fairly important to get in progress early, while there's a lot of the other strategics and the documents and stuff can happen, sort of anywhere, but the getting together space, so you don't have to always try and find a cafe or find somewhere that's available, like Anna's just said, where there's a room, that sort of thing. I would have thought that having a hub soon, as opposed to later down the track, would make all of this transfer and sharing of stuff a lot easier. But no one. I
can see Tony. Yeah.
I mean, thanks, Mary, for that question. I think it's early days yet. We haven't really shaped up, and we probably need maybe some people to get together to start shaping some suggestions up, maybe, or embark on some sort of process. But as Joe says, it's a separate thing altogether from the hub, which is just a space that gets valuable space. But this means more than a physical space. It's going to be where we're going to connect and promote volunteering and support and train, all those things together. So, and I think we also got to put a bit of thought in it, because it's got to be, and I'm sure it will be, a different space from the community houses as well. So it's got to have a real purpose and identity in line with all our pillars that we've worked on.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. That's helpful for me to be clear about that. And maybe it is confusing to use the same term, community hub, given there's an existing community hub, and it might be a good idea to change the language we use in the roadmap to something else. Happy for someone to throw up an idea, but maybe
just make it the Volunteer Resource Centre.
Is it just about volunteers though, Anna? Or I think it might be more around not-for-profits as well, that may have a paid staff member or something, but inclusive of not-for-profits, volunteer-led, and those that might have staff too.
Maybe it's the community groups hub or something like that. There's something that's more general, so it doesn't specify not-for-profits as opposed to others. It's anyone who's working in a community space to sort of be able to come and share. I don't know if there's an exhaustive list or if this is open to some and not others, and maybe that forms part of how it goes. But I think it's all of this sort of stuff. It's important. I know a lot of stuff will be done online, but I still think it's important to have a permanently available physical hub where if people need to get together quickly, they're not rushing around trying to find a space they can use. They've got that, it exists at their own out of this roadmap and what everybody wants to get out of this. So
yeah,
obviously,
so maybe
maybe
we might sort of take that on notice, Alistair, a bit, and in your conversations you can see what feels good, but maybe it is something just changing the terminology of that pillar so it's really clear that it's a separate thing to the physical community hub that exists now, and maybe community group something. I don't know. My brain's not working fast enough in the moment to come up with something great, but I'm sure we will. I'm mindful of time, so I'm happy to stay on the line, but I'm sure some might need to jump off at 1. If anybody would like to stay on the line for a bit longer, another 5 or 10 minutes, that's fine. But we might just quickly talk about next steps, and then we'll stop sharing again. And if anyone would like to stick around and have a bit more of a conversation, you're welcome. So in terms of next steps, with Alistair on the ground, he can, obviously he'll be getting some great feedback, I'm sure, but we'll aim to finalise the first version of this year one roadmap over the next, let's say, 2 weeks, and then that'll be circulated, and we'll also, you'll be able to find that on the FRRR website. So we'll share all those details as that happens. Now is the time to, as we kind of really just bed that down, now is the time to start, thinking about potential projects that you'd like to activate that are aligned to the roadmap. And so that's, I guess, the first thing to think about is that any project idea that you'd like to seek funding for will be aligned to one of the pillars in the roadmap, one or more. And Alistair will be available to start liaising and developing project ideas. I'm fully aware that, and I would have liked to kind of have this ready now, but we're still kind of finalising the details on our end. There will be guidelines in terms of to support you developing your project ideas, in terms of what's in and what's out, the kind of organisations that can apply to sort of lead that project idea. At grant application date opening time, we'll announce that hopefully over the next week or so. That's a work in progress, but won't be far away. But I think in the first instance, what I can tell you is that to apply for funding aligned to the roadmap, you will need to engage with Alistair in the first instance to talk about your project idea, and he'll be great in ensuring that and supporting you to prepare a grant-ready application and idea. So that, just keep that in mind in the first instance, and there'll be more details to come on those lines. But I think start engaging with Alistair is, the next best thing to do as we finalise the roadmap as it is. All right, so let's finish sharing. For anyone who needs to jump off, thank you for your responses. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for all your energy and input. It's been awesome to get to this point. And I really feel like we're entering the next phase of the program. So excited, essentially. But feel free. Emily and I will stay on the line if you'd like to stay on and chat about anything. If not, go well for the rest of the day and the week, and we'll be in touch, and make sure you've got Alistair's details.
One last question.
Thank you, Jo. Thanks, everybody.
Pleasure. Thanks, Anna. See you.
You see me? Can you hear me, Jo?
I can. Yes, I've got the room.
Mark here from MVRG. Previously, it was mentioned that there would be a storytelling component to this whole process, and we would be getting phones and recording things as they went along. Is that still part of the plan?
100%, yes. So our evaluation partner is called, it's not the Storytellers, it's the Story Catchers. I just had a mental blank then. The Story Catchers is our evaluation partner, and they have a very strong approach in terms of storytelling, capturing that over time, what we call most significant change as an idea of identifying the things that are really significant and supporting positive outcomes through the program. So they will be, at the moment, I'm connecting with them about developing the monitoring and evaluation plan for the program. We will be engaging kind of more broadly to finalise that. But as that happens, I imagine in the next couple of months, we will be connecting with them and Maryborough to start talking about some strategies about capturing that information. And like I said, we do have some equipment that will kind of help you capture things as well. So, that's yet to come. It's definitely in the wind, and 100% going to happen.
Now, a follow-up question, if I may, or just we're, as an organisation, MVRG has already had conversations about what a community hub could look like or be or represent. And so because of those conversations, we've brought some ideas together already. And I'm putting together a PowerPoint of lots of those ideas so that can be shared and added to by other members of the community, so that we get a sort of a clear vision of what people expect from a community hub or centre or whatever it is. So we are in the process of doing that now, and that's something that we could share with all members in 1 or 2 weeks' time to help concentrate that conversation about what a hub would do or deliver for the community. So just letting you know, and Alistair know, that that's already in the process. That's already been happening. We've been looking around town. We've done lots of conversations about what it would look like holistically rather than physically. So just inform you of that's where we are already on that. So we're already moving forward with that.
Fantastic. And I was fully expecting that the MVRG has been busy in the background working on potentially ideas along a range of these pillars and goals. So yeah, thank you. It's great to know that that's happening, and I'm sure Alistair will be keen to follow up on that with you. Sounds great. Thanks, Mark.
No worries.
Any other comments or ideas, suggestions? Rachel, are you saying goodbye, or would you like to?
No, I'd like to talk, but I don't know how to work this damn machine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I've lost your face, but I can hear you, so that's fine.
See, I don't know how to do it. I'm so sorry. That's why I couldn't put my hand up. When you're talking about the, the strategy pillar and the changing face of volunteering, that is so important for our groups that are out of Maryborough. So I'm just in Denali, not too far away. But with the museum, for example, I'll just give, this is my example last night. I'm still up till 3 a.m. trying to get this damn computer to work so I can send out the minutes. These are probably problems that a younger person or someone else who understands technology could fix all these problems instantly. But it's one of the reasons why so many of us burn out. We're doing things as volunteers that aren't our strength. I can get up and do a show in front of 1,000 people easy. That's what I do. But trying to work silly computers is not my strength. And our volunteers tend to be so much older. So once I become secretary of something like the museum, I've been there for 15 years and not been able to miss a meeting because nobody else will come up. So by looking further than our town and being able to ask advice and help from a hub in Maryborough that will also work with that wider community, that's going to help enormously. Anyway, that's just my little point. It's not even so much that I need lessons on computers or things, because I've tried that for the last few years as well. It's asking advice from other people on basic stuff, governance, broader governance of, like taking forever to get on the charity status for all these committees I'm on. Took me forever and intensely stressful, which takes away from the strengths. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Thanks, Rachel. I think all of those things you've highlighted just, speak to the program and the potential of it. So thank you. Yeah, great insights.
Thank you.
Jo, sorry, just the last one. Going on what Rachel just said about getting charity status, I've noticed on the FRRR Facebook that if we are part of the program, that we automatically get that status. Is that true, or could you maybe elaborate on that?
Oh, that's curious. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to there, Anna. What I can...
DGR status.
DGR status. Yeah. Yeah, that's not something that's a given through this program. it's something that potentially could be organisations might be able to be supported through a process which has nothing to do with, like, it's completely external to FRRR. Okay. So, yeah, it's not something that we could influence, but perhaps the program could support if there was an organisation that felt it was really relevant and important for them to have DGR status. But in terms of accessing FRRR funding, one of the great things about FRRR is we do have a very broad ability to support funding to all kinds of organisations, and particularly those that don't have DGR status. So that's not certainly a hiccup in terms of being able to access funding through this program. So incorporated associations and such, we can definitely support funds too to activate project ideas.
Thank you.
I can probably also say that for those that may not be aware, FRRR does partner. We call them fundraising accounts, does partner with not-for-profit organisations across the country to support them to access, to essentially through a partnership, they can receive funding that would otherwise normally only could receive if they were a DGR1 organisation. So we can act as a conduit through a partnership to receive funds on behalf of organisations to broaden their donor networks, basically. But that's something separate to this, but, could become relevant as we go along.
That could be the intention, I think, of what's stated on the website. That makes sense.
Might be.
What you just said. Yeah. Thanks.
No worries. We do have a range of partnerships along those lines. Any final questions or comments? I feel like...
one question for you, Mark, again.
Yeah, go for it.
How's the schedule tomorrow? Is that, there's a possibility everybody turns up at the same time. So how are you proposing, Alistair, to handle a possible influx of many people?
Well, I could easily schedule everyone who's here. I think I've reached out to some people who I'd really like to meet tomorrow, and then we'll arrange it. But I'll be at the Bull and Mouth at 12. If everyone turns up, we'll just work out how we play with that.
So is it first in, first served, or how are you going to do it?
Why wouldn't everyone just... Obviously, it's easy to invite people he wants to meet. So, I'm sure we'll work that out. I think,
If there's a time that would suit to meet with the Maryborough Volunteer Resource Group, then that's a priority. Let me know.
Yeah, I think let's use Alistair's contact details. He's not going away. He is with us to stay. There's no immediate urgency to, in terms of being able to submit an application for funding. There's obviously lots of work to do to develop ideas. So, yeah, don't feel like tomorrow's your one and only opportunity. Alistair will be around into the future. So, yeah, feel free to reach out to him to make a time. And, of course, MVRG will definitely want to spend some time with him, no doubt.